What's up, everybody, and welcome to Theory Underground. I am David McCarricker, and today we are joined by the co-instructor of something that we are here to announce today, Anne Snellgrove. Welcome. Oh, muted.
Hello,
How's it going?
I am good. Got some beans on the stove. Good day.
Yeah, we're both kind of recovering from a pretty brutal last week in our own ways. I had a whole stomach thing and had a whole allergy thing, maybe. We're not really sure.
Maybe allergies, maybe a little cold. I don't know. So I sound a little stuffy. I'll make sure to keep myself muted when I'm not talking so you don't hear my piggy sniffles.
It's okay. It's okay if we hear you sniffle a little bit. Um, so yeah, we're going to be announcing some. The internet's not looking so good today. That's not good. In the chat, let me know if things are good. For the people watching this in the future, not dealing with the buffering issues, welcome. This is something that we've been talking about doing for a long time. It's a conversation that Ann and I both have had interpersonally, but also with ourselves and others, professionally, personally. Really, media and smartphones and the usage of social media and our relationships with others that are mediated by these devices, it saturates every level of our existence in the world today. And so we like to think about the world that we live in and try to understand the situation we are in and what we're up against and how technology and media and the ways that those are being used by power fundamentally transforms ourselves, our possibilities, our relations to one another. And that is basically critical media theory. That's basically critical media theory. But what is digital literacy? We're going to be talking about why we feel need to teach this course. We're going to be talking about what is critical media theory and digital literacy. We're going to be talking about the structure of this course and why we think it's really exciting. Why it's kind of a new thing we'd never really thought about doing before, and yeah, what makes it different. And then we'll finish out with how you can sign up if you're interested in taking this course with us. But so yeah, and do you want to say some opening remarks about your educational experience and also your personal experience, why you're interested in this course and teaching it?
For sure, yes. So I graduated from Boise State University a couple years ago with a bachelor's degree in social science. So sociology was really my main focus. I was able to do a lot of research with various research projects within the university. So I kind of come to this topic not only with an interest in the and a little bit of a footing in the philosophy and the theory side, but I kind of bring the social science and the sociology side to this conversation. Um, but I think something else that I bring to this conversation is just the fact that I grew up with this technology from a very early age. And so I'll be able to kind of offer my perspective and the experience that I think a lot of young people share, that I think we're just starting to reach this threshold where the people who are my age, who have grown up on iPads, iPods, Instagram since the age of 10, 11, 12, are now kind of in their 20s, reaching adulthood and realizing, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been on this technology and on these platforms at such an early age, and especially such a formative age of adulthood. And so kind of for me, I was in, I think, fifth or sixth grade when like it was the iPad 2. The iPad 2 was out. I had a friend who had an iPad, and I was like, I really want an iPad. And so my parents said, you can have one if you save up the money for it. And so I like did a lot of chores. I helped my dad with his baking business, and he paid me to help him like bake. For my birthday, I told people all I want is like Apple gift cards and money because I'm saving up for this iPad. And so, yeah, at a very, very young age, I got this device, and then next thing you know, I was on Instagram, seeing all my friends post selfies. And back then, Instagram was when you're like 12 years old, you use Instagram and you just post anything and everything, like multiple times a day. You post how you're feeling, like so that I was hooked. I was hooked onto this media from a very early age, and all my life I have grown up with a smartphone basically in my pocket with instantaneous access to all of my friends, Facebook, Twitter, not so much Twitter anymore, Snapchat, Instagram. Now the new thing is TikTok. I did the TikTok thing during 2020 and 2021 when everyone was locked inside. I'm off TikTok now, and so through my whole life, I feel like I've kept trying to kind of pick the addiction. I've always been like, okay, tonight's the night. I'm never using this again. I'm gonna delete all my social media. I'm gonna live my best life. I'm gonna be productive, and then I fall back on. And so it's just been this continuous cycle for me in my life of trying to break the addiction, trying to not use it as much, trying to have a better relationship with technology and falling back on. Dave and I were just talking earlier today about, I even went as far as to, I should go get it. Hold on one second. I even went as far as to switch to this phone, no brick phone. So I still kept my iPhone, and I use my iPhone right now while we're in Mexico for like maps and stuff, and we communicate with people on WhatsApp. But there was, I think, like a 6-month period where this was my main phone in the United States, so that when I was out in public, I could still, be able to receive texts and calls, but not have the instant access of, oh, I'm bored, let's check Instagram or whatever. And once here I am once again, like trying another experiment, feeling like it's failed me, or feeling like I've failed the experiment. Always, checking the phone. What's the new thing on Instagram? What's the new thing on Facebook? Also, this phone is a literal piece of shit. The Nokia, the buttons are bad. I can't receive group text messages, and so it's just hard in this day and age to escape it. Every time I feel like I want to have a better relationship with social media, I realize, oh, I need to be on Facebook for this play that I'm in. There's a Facebook group. I need to check the events of this, or the time and date of this event. I need to use Facebook or Instagram Messenger to check a message with someone. And so it feels really hard to escape from this technology when when everyone's on it, the whole society's on it, all the cultural references are on it. And so I'm just excited to, teach this course and try something new, because I think part of what's been missing for me when using all this technology is not just, okay, I'm going to get rid of it, but why? What does it mean to have a better relationship with technology? What's the philosophy and theory behind digital literacy and critical media theory and the philosophy of technology? Why should I have a better relationship with it? What is it doing to me? And so those are some of the things we're hoping to explore in this course, and hopefully at the other end of it, I can feel more confident in my ability to say, no, I don't need you today. It's okay. I don't need to be checking these social media apps every day. And I'm just looking forward to kind of experimenting with that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my experience, but I guess for me the struggle was that early on I didn't. For me, I came from outside of the phone, right? So I wasn't like I didn't go through puberty on social media, like that. The idea of that is terrifying to me now. When I try to think back, like what would that have been like? Instead, it was it was a little bit more gradual. Dumb phones. I experienced dumb phones first, right? Like landlines, then like the little the almost like the phone that you were just showing, like that kind of a cell phone was pretty close to my first phone, right? Yeah, and when it had a camera, it was like that's the coolest thing ever, because prior to that, you have to actually get a digital camera. It was like a separate thing altogether. I had a Walkman before that, right? Before the Walkman, I had the little cassette piece, right? So to have all of these different devices all consolidated into one device was instantly awesome. And when Verizon put out its Razr phone, I remember thinking that was the coolest thing ever. I think it had Tetris on it, and I was so stoked to have Tetris and a camera, and I would spend so much time texting my friends and everything like that. But at this point, I'm 17, 18, 19, 20, and I'm texting a lot. And then I started to realize, like, okay, the people that I text a lot with I'm not having as good of like conversations with them in real life. And so over a few years, I started to kind of realize, oh, there's different qualities of relationships. And I didn't really have the theoretical conceptual apparatuses or perspectives to be able to really think about it yet. But I did get this kind of intuitive sense that I'd spent too much time texting and not enough time having what I was starting to call real conversations. And so that was the beginning of some like disillusionment for me. But at that point, it wasn't yet addicting in the sense that it has become for me. So I think that you're talking about how for you, it was kind of addicting out the door, right? At an extremely formative age. And so for me, it was like more gradual. And then when I became aware that it was becoming addicting, I was like, well, what's going on here? And about the time that I started thinking that it was addicting, I was in college. And so, I'm in college. I've studied philosophy enough at this point to start thinking, oh, there's not just an inherent human nature that is the same in all societies throughout all time. There is a human condition, and that human condition is contextual, historically, given material conditions and the dynamics in play within the parameters of those material conditions. And I think probably one of the most influential early works for me was A Strange Labor by Karl Marx, and thinking about how a machine that takes over and consolidates and then so that you are kind of reduced into repetitive functions, relationship with the world through perception, like that mediates by bringing something present to us that wouldn't have been immediately present otherwise. And the way that a device or that a medium is able to re-present, to render present something that wasn't present, something that was absent, changes the way that we think and the way that we perceive it, and sets the parameters within which we will act and interpret. So the ramifications of this are so profound that I'm at this point now where I go, I think that we are in this period of time that will be talked about for hundreds of years. It will have its own special name in history classes, and people will still be talking about the ramifications of this for as long as there is human history. And so when people get too far ahead of themselves, thinking, oh, well, we know what it is, and it's fine, or we know what it is, and it's bad. These are both thought terminating in a certain sense, because it's like, sure, there's various ways that it's good and that it's bad, but we don't have the critical distance at this point to be able to really know what it is or what its ramifications will be. And so what we do know, though, is that one of the main affects of being kind of caught up in the attention economy today is being very distracted, right? I think that that's one of the biggest ones is distraction. The other affect that tells us something is definitely going on is loneliness. So distraction, loneliness, anxiety. I'm going to put up on the screen actually an article. It looks like The Dangerous Maybe is in the chat. Michael Downs posted this back in July of 2020, and it's called Millennials and Loneliness. It's cut off. I actually have to fix the screen here so you can see it. Hold on, let's fix the screen. There you go, now you can see it. Millennials and Loneliness, McLuhan and Levinas on the phone. This is a very short piece. It's a very powerful piece, and it's about how say put it this way, but like he and I both realized over the past 10 years how much more quality our relationships were with people that we were having phone calls with as opposed to people we were not having phone calls with. And this is actually like important to understand from a theoretical perspective using McLuhan and Levinas for a couple of very important reasons. Mikey, I wonder if you actually want to send us a voice message on Facebook Messenger. We could play it out over stream, basically giving the rundown of this article. And I actually, it's kind of like a perfect tie-in here, though. One of the podcasts you've listened to a lot over the years, I don't think you really listen to it anymore, but the one of the hosts would complain, or was it both of the hosts would complain about phone calls, right?
Yeah, the host, I guess I won't necessarily name the podcast unless you think it's relevant, but these two hosts are like grown adults, have three children, and are just like, oh my gosh, I hate phone calls more than anything in the world. I will never the doctor
Right.
hate social yeah.
No, you cut out for a second there. Over what? The doctor? What?
Said like they will never ever make a phone call or answer a phone call. They hate it so much unless it's an emergency or the doctor for their kids. If they need to call the doctor, they won't do it. Like they'll use Google or the internet. They also, complained about like they're in this intense social anxiety where they can't even like just going to FedEx to send a package. They're like, oh my gosh, I was the most anxious I've ever been having to talk to this employee and get a package sent. And so, it's not to shame these people at all. I think that's kind of a common mood I see a lot on social media and just within my own life and friendships and connections that I've made is this absolute crippling social anxiety of not liking to answer the door, not wanting to answer the phone, not feeling comfortable like asking for help at places of service. Like this just really like we don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Face to face or just through voice. Nowadays, oh, I need to set an appointment, I'll just do it online on the online appointment setter for the doctor or whatever. Oh, I need to order food, I'll just do it online. Oh, like there's so much of these like kind of normal interactions that have been digitized that we're no longer back in the United States.
Where we go these days, this is a continuous problem. It's always like the internet gets faster and faster, supposedly, but then it doesn't actually seem to have changed anything. It gets faster, but it seems slower, right? And that's in part because the size of the files on the internet are always also being increased. So it's just like this arms race to make everything higher resolution and everything faster and faster, and it becomes more and more expensive. And I know that everyone's just like, why is it speeding up so much? And a big part of it is because of capital, because Amazon loses like $100 million if it takes 3 seconds longer for the website to load. Okay? It would cost me like an extra $1,000 to make the load times of my own website faster. Okay, so speed becomes everything, right? And obviously, like a thinker like Virillia is very important for that today. We'll be talking a little bit about the kinds of thinkers that we're drawing off of, and it's going to be kind of a mashup of popular works that are kind of in the vein of what Anne will be introducing in this stream as digital literacy, and then works that span philosophy, technology, media theory, and critical theory for thinking about the situation we're in today. So up on the screen here, and I don't think you can see it, but up on the screen here, I have the theory-underground.com/waypoint page, and it's just my first book. You're able to get like you're able to access all of the chapters for free, and you can listen to them read aloud for free here on my website. You just have to type in theory-underground.com/waypoint. And if you want a copy of it, you just click here, and then you can get the paperback for cheaper, way cheaper than it is on Amazon. It's like half the cost after shipping. So anyway, why am I showing you this though? Because chapter 2 of my book here is called, that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is called Virtual Enframing, Heidegger, Levinas, and Critical Media Theory. This is where I first kind of present the term critical media theory. It's not my own coinage. Mikey and I had been having conversations about stuff like his article, Millennials and Loneliness, McLuhan and Levinas on the Phone, as well as this stuff that I'd been researching. And we'd been calling it philosophy of technology for a while, but then that was kind of erasing the McLuhan influence, right? And that's media theory. But McLuhan isn't like a Marxist. And in fact, if you read Understanding Media, his magnum opus, he kind of out the door says that Marxism is fundamentally undermined by his theory because it just shows that Marx got the base superstructure relation backwards. Or at least if he didn't get it backwards at the time, the roles have reversed in order now. And the thing is like, even if that's true, there's so much that we can gain from a critique of political economy, that so many tools developed by Marx, that doesn't make it like, oh well, he's into the trash bin of history and now we've got McLuhan. Actually, we need McLuhan and we need Marx, and we also need Heidegger's The Question Concerning Technology. We need Hannah Arendt's The Human Condition, right? And I'm going to skip about a century here and then say to this current day, we've got authors like Byung-Chul Han writing books like Psychopolitics, In the Swarm, and what's the other one that we might be drawing off of in this course?
Burnout Society?
What is it? Yeah, the Burnout Society.
Burnout?
Exactly. Yeah, the Burnout Society. Those kinds of books are all within the field, the emerging field of critical media theory. And so really it's basically philosophy, technology, media theory, and critical theory all kind of meeting, right? And the main question orienting my work is, what's the good life? What is subjectivity? If the human condition is its parameters of possibility are shaped and set by the material conditions, then what are those material conditions, considering the fact that we are seeing rapid evolution or expansion and refinement of certain kinds of technology and media, right? So those are sort of the orienting questions for me going in. And what are the sort of orienting questions for you going into all of this? What is digital literacy? How is it defined, and how would you define it?
Yeah, for sure. I think similar to you, one of my just kind of like questions that I've always cared about, and I've allowed it to kind of guide my research, but is, what is the good life? Like, what does it mean to live a good life, to self-actualize and to build yourself to be the best that you can be? And so, regarding this course, some of the questions that I come in with are just what should our relationship with technology, social media, our cell phones, the internet look like? What are the pros? What are the cons? That seems very, basic, but I really want to dig into that and figure out how can we use it to build our relationships, and in what ways do we need to, separate ourselves and cultivate other aspects of our life that are fundamental to our values. And so in terms of kind of what digital literacy means, I actually want to start by reading the Google definition of the word literacy. So literacy, Google just says the ability to read and write. So sure, like in that definition, most people are literate. Most people can read and they can write. But, Dave and I have this conversation a lot, especially in terms of like thinking about being lifelong learners and readers and intellectuals and in this kind of world of doing underground theory. A term that Dave introduced to me a while ago was the term functional literacy or functional illiteracy. And so while a lot of people in society are literate in the sense that they can read and write, most people at least in the United States can, or most people in Western civilizations can, but they can't really sit down and read and digest a book and apply it to their life, apply it to their thoughts, apply it to their research, use writing to work out hard ideas. And so literacy versus functional literacy is just, how are you reading and writing? Are you just, oh, I read a book? Are you really thinking about that book and applying it to other concepts and using it to build new ideas and have real conversations? I think kind of in the vein of that article that you just put out, the 3 principles of writing, like the Burt standard, the Mikey standard, the Bryan standard. That is what true literacy looks like when we just talk about like reading and writing literacy. Reading and rereading and being able to first explain it in your own words, then make connections and contrast it. And so digital literacy, the internet offers kind of a similar definition. If you look at the first sentence of the Wikipedia article for what digital literacy is, it says, digital literacy is an individual's ability to find, evaluate, and communicate information by utilizing typing or digital media platforms. It is a combination of both technical and cognitive abilities in using information and communication technologies to create, evaluate, and share information. So, same thing. Digital literacy is being able to use digital technologies. Okay, my grandma can use the computer, so in the same way that, yes, the definition might be your ability to use it to communicate and create, but in terms of this course, when we're talking about digital literacy, we're talking about your ability to incorporate it smartly or incorporate it wisely into your life. Your ability to know when and how to use it, when and how to separate yourselves from it, to kind of have a philosophy and a theory and values surrounding it. It's not just, do I know how to make a PowerPoint? It's why, it's understanding why you're using the technology, why you're using digital technologies versus other means. So yeah, when we talk about digital literacy in the terms of this course, it's a lot deeper than just, do you know how to use? Because I'm sure if you were to take like a community college class called digital literacy, they'd be teaching you how to use Word and Microsoft and PowerPoint and Sheets and all that stuff. But this is really like theorizing around it and having values within it and kind of understanding why we use it, how to use it to make our lives better as human beings. And so that's what we're going to explore in this class, with not only the theoretical books and kind of the theory that we're going to be based in, but also the practical and more popular books that we'll be reading.
That's a perfect setup for the next question, which is why a 6-month course? Some people are going to be like, oh my God, that sounds like so much work. No, it's actually the opposite. We wanted to approach this in a way that gives us the time to prepare for the lectures. We want to give people who are involved time to do the readings and to reflect on things in a more meditative way that is less rushed. So, I mean, obviously I'm teaching other stuff while this course is going on. It would have been impossible otherwise. But I need a structure, an accountability and assessment structure that will help me pace myself and stay mindful about all of the things that I'm involved in. And so this isn't just like a 6 months course. It's 6 months of meeting once per month. If you are going to be in the discussion group tier, then you will also have access to basically what will be like a monthly recovery group meeting. So, if I think that's at tier 2. Is that right, Anne? We can always double check.
Either tier 2 or 3. We'll go through them at the end of
Yeah.
this.
But the point, yeah, we'll do it then. But basically, do I have it down here at the bottom? I do, actually. So I can read off of here. But I think it might be tier 3. Okay. So basically, though, the discussion group is for people who are going to get a lot out of this. Like, they really need this, and they also want to be able to talk for a couple hours per month with other people who are also processing this stuff. It's meant to be a small, kind of intimate group. This is going to be led by Anne, and it's going to be for people who are kind of a lot more interested in the recovery side of things. Now, I'm going to be really encouraging people on the writing side of things to take opportunities to give yourself a space of solitude at least once a month, to be able to do some writing reflections on the it's basically journaling, right? But about the various experiments that we'll be trying out here at Theory Underground. And so what are some of the experiments that that people will get to try out over the course of 6 months?
Yeah, I think some of the experiments are going to be, and that's part of why this course is going to be 6 months, is because these aren't just experiments that you do once and then you're done. These need to be experiments that you're trying over a 2-week to 1 month block. So after each lecture, we'll have gone through kind of the theoretical readings, we'll have gone through kind of the practical text, and then we will give you something to try for the month. And so that's going to be experiments like, doing a digital detox in the style of Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, or, for a month, observing your phone usage and reflecting, how does it make you feel? Or it'll be things like, challenging you to take solitude versus solicitude, which are concepts that we'll get into in this course, a bit more seriously, and take some real solitude out in nature, away from everything and everyone, and just you and your thoughts. And then the opposite, challenge you to engage in some real solicitude by, making a phone call or having a sit down conversation with someone. And so things like that are going to just really get you to implement some new things, some new experiments into your life that just require time to schedule it, to plan it, because we know you have this busy life. You can't just go, I'm going to go on a 6-hour hike this weekend before the course. It's like, obviously we have busy lives. You need time to do that, but you also have to experiment. You have to be able to reflect, to really put yourself into the experiment, and not just do, I have to do this because I have to. But the challenge is, and we hope that, not only do we want to theoretically understand our use of social media and technology and the media theory and digital literacy, but we want to practically, hopefully, come out of this course feeling like we have a better handle on technology. I talk about my own experience in a way that I think I've characterized it before, and it's hyperbolic, but I say I feel like I feel like I've been a heroin addict since the age of 13, in the sense that I need this, I need it. Where is it? I need it on me. And I just feel like I can't escape every time I go, no, I'm done. It's like a heroin addict needs, or someone who's addicted to very addicting drugs needs like real rehabilitation and needs that real help. It can't just like, I'm going to stop doing this addicting drug. I feel like I've been trying that experiment my whole life. I'm going to stop my addiction tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. And so the 6 months, the slow process of really implementing these things, really thinking about these things, is hopefully going to help not only me, like I hope I come out of this with a better relationship. And finally, for the first time in the last, 10 years since I've really been hooked on this stuff, of like freer feeling like I don't have this thing attached to my veins. But I hope that everyone can kind of come out of it with a newer and freer relationship to technology, whatever you feel like your vice may be. I think the evidence, the science, the data is very clear, and we'll talk about some of that within some of these books, is that these technologies were designed to be addictive in the same way that gambling is addictive, or the same way like that some drugs are addictive. It's like, I need it, I need it, I need it. I can't live without it. It feels like it's pulling you, like you don't have any control over it. And so we're hoping to slow down, regain some control in a very critical manner. And so that'll be exciting.
Yeah, and I want to clarify what we mean by slow down, because it's easy to take that, and because there's like a movement about slowing down, get it confused with the movement. Ashley Frowley made a good point when we were on the Sublation Media podcast. It was the patron side though, so a lot of people didn't see it. It wasn't like public or whatever, but she interviewed us with the homie Ted Reese in London when we were there last November. But one of the things that she was talking about was about how slowing down becomes like this. People get this idea of almost becoming like, Amish, probably not in terms of the religion or whatever, but, it's just change, oh, we're going to slow down. Yeah, but society's not going to slow down. These devices and their evolution won't slow down. For people who are looking forward to another, I don't know about like looking forward in the sense of excited about, but like looking forward into the future, for another like 20, 30, 50 years, we've got to, I don't want to exclude people who aren't looking that far ahead. Some people are retired. They're basically like, well, I'm not looking that far off into the future. Okay. But for the rest of us though, who are looking that far off into the future, this stuff's not going to slow down anytime too soon. And so it's not about slowing down as an overall way of life, but it's finding and forcing the blocks of time into our month so that we can do deliberate kinds of practices. When Henry David Thoreau says at the beginning of the Walden book, he says that he went to the woods to live deliberately, right? It's so easy, even back then, living in New England or wherever he was, to feel like, oh, the hubbub of the city life, it's just all frantic, go, go, go. Everything that was solid is melting into air in these sort of labor extracting, capital valorizing, centers that we call cities. And, if you're living in that, it's just, it's intoxifying, and like, your desire and your drive is caught up in it in the kinds of ways that Michael Downs and Todd McGowan write about. And we can't all just go to the woods to live deliberately, but we develop this new fantasy of that. And in a sort of sense, that fantasy becomes a part of the desire and drive structure within capitalism, so that self-care itself has been commodified, and self-care industries and practices like rise up. Though we're going to be deeply critical of the commodification and ideology of things like self-care, there's always something that's working, or something fundamental about the human experience that is concerning, that the industry in question is addressing. And so for us, at least for me, it's like, I'm not going to stop. I have to be on my computer at least every couple days, because the web development stuff requires constant care. If I leave the website for like a week, then the updates pile up, and then things start getting all buggy and there's problems. So it's like, the maintenance of a website alone requires constant care. The maintenance of a course requires constant care. And I already feel like, oh, I can't even keep up with all the conversations going on. So the question is not one of disconnecting and just, I will begin to live a slower life. I'm not going to. But there will be practices that I experiment with routinely, and they will not always be the same practices, because different experiments will turn out different, and what works for one person might not work for another. And what matters the most is not, oh, we found the tried and true lifestyle. What matters is that we all develop a shared literacy in tactics for coping with the changing conditions on the one side, and the theoretical understanding of what it is to be and live and do things here and now moving forward into the future, as opposed to how things used to be. And that's really why you have to have the theory and practice. It's instead, people who read Heidegger's critique of question concerning technology, and or Marshall McLuhan's, not the media, what's it called? Understanding Media. People who are reading these texts, first of all, they don't usually read both texts, right? They read one or the other, or they read Virilio, right? Like people get little tastes of these thinkers, but they don't get a whole course focused on, okay, what does this thinker bring to the table? What does this thinker bring to the table? What does this thinker bring to the table? But if you are that rare cat who did all of the above, the chances are you didn't read Sherry Turkle's Reclaiming Conversation. You didn't read Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism, right? You didn't read this other book that Anne's been drawing off of, How to Break Up with Your Smartphone. Touching on the Reclaiming Conversation book, Sherry Turkle has a background in psychoanalysis. She's a social scientist. She's a psychologist as well. She's also written some popular bestsellers. In her early days, she wrote about looking at the politics of psychoanalysis. She was talking about the drama of being in France at the time of Lacan's ascendancy and all of the crazy politics of the scene at the time. And then in her older years, she's written a lot more of these popular works that are meant to get people to think about like the impact of these devices now. And I just want to use a couple of examples just so people kind of have some things to think about after watching this. Like she talks about how the tendency is towards friction-free living, that the phone becomes an escape valve or an escape from any sort of awkward or kind of friction dynamic that we might have in our lives. A perfect example of that being you walk into the elevator, oh my God, awkward, so you get on your phone, right? You're sitting somewhere and then someone else is there, you don't know what they're doing, you don't know if you should say something, so instead you just get on your phone, right? Or you reach out to somebody and they don't respond to you. You wanted some kind of feedback, and because you didn't get it, now you go to someone else, and you go to someone else. There's these various ways that we try to get our desires for attention immediately responded to, and that's what I was talking about yesterday in the stream when I was going into that new article on publications at Theory Underground, the one called The Algorithmic Stage, right? What does it mean to develop in not in real time anymore? In real time, you have to wait for people to be around. People process things and come back to you with more. But online, they're trying to satisfy demand as fast as you have it, right? And so the normal waiting of real time is in a lot of cases cut out. So friction-free living. Yeah, go.
Oh, I was just going to say, within that, I think this is the concept that Sherry Turkle brings up, but that you would, like, we've also talked about is, like, being on call. Humans we're on call all the time, in the same way that, like, a brain surgeon or something, or some employees have to be on call for a certain period of time. We have now become on call to every single person ever, where people are expecting an immediate response to you, checking your email outside of work, respond to my text, answer my phone call. It's like we are just kind of constantly, and I think we play into it too, just constantly waiting. Oh, someone messaged me, I better get back to them as fast as I can. So I think that kind of goes into there's never, that is part of the friction, at least for me, and that's part of, why I tried to experiment. I have to always be available in case there's an emergency and someone calls me or someone needs me. There used to be a time when we didn't have phones in our pockets all the time.
Human resources, right? We talk about trees are now just resources. We don't see trees as trees. We see trees as cellulose. Obviously, all of these demographics that are being exploited by markets are almost all through the same devices. And these devices, part of how they work is they sell us this idea or this feeling of friction-free living, which offers us speedy escape. Humans have always looked for ways to escape from things, right? And there are some ways of escaping that are more destructive, and there are some that are less destructive. But this idea of friction-free living and the comfort zone, I just want to leave you with one concrete practice or experiment that you can use, whether or not you decide you want to take the course. The one thing that I want you to think about trying, if you're watching this, is what Sherry Turkle calls the 10-minute rule. The 10-minute rule, she says, it's part of like developing, what the title of the book, Reclaiming Conversation. When people sit down at a table together nowadays, the tendency is to want to whip out the phone. We're all together now, we're going to whip out the phone. Okay. Study after study after study have shown that this makes people highly distracted, anxious, and that if you pull out your phone, then other people want to pull out their phone, and the quality of the conversation goes down. The phone should be put over there. It shouldn't be at the table. Okay?
Right, even just having the phone on the table. I think studies also show that if you're studying or trying to do work, just having the phone on the table in your eyesight, like changes how you're feeling and changes your relation to the work that you're doing or the conversation that you're having in that moment.
Exactamente. And so the 10-minute rule is meant to counter the impulse, right? On the one side, I just put out an article about the fuck it button, right? If you have writer's block, and I talk about the various reasons you might have writer's block, one of the concrete things that you can try, I talk about the fuck it button. And I have a whole story about why I really like that term. But the opposite of the fuck it button is the cool down. And the fuck it button is what you use when you need some more courage to do something, when you are feeling when you're getting too introspective and neurotic to just get something done that you should probably do. I do it when I send emails. I write out an email and then I'm like, oh no, it can take so much time to really fine tune an email. What I try to do is be like, it's good enough, and then I send it. Okay, if there's a mistake in it and the person really cares, then I don't want to work with them anyway. All right, we can't have that attitude about everything, and part of the reason is because we also do a lot of things impulsively, right? And so, if you have a tendency to do certain things impulsively, then those are the things to apply a cool down to. The 10-minute rule fits within the cool down side of things, which is to say, if you're sitting at the table and somebody is boring, or you feel anxious because you've tried to have a conversation and it's not really going anywhere, and this person is not immediately entertaining. Sherry Turkle talks about how the phone has taught us to basically think, if a person's not immediately entertaining or interesting to us, then whatever, and now we're on to, back to the phone. So in that moment of either anxiety or boredom, she says, give it 10 minutes and just be with them. Just be present. It doesn't even have to go anywhere. Nothing has to come of it. But at least give yourself and give the other person 10 minutes, right? Because it can take a little while we're all in this, right? We're all in this, and we all need to cut each other a break. And if we don't give ourselves that time to breathe, that time to be with one another, we're not just fucked. Like, our relationships are fucked, right? If we're not getting genuine time with ourselves, then we're not getting genuine time with others, right? And so that's genuine time with oneself is solitude. Genuine time with others is solicitude, right? This is the virtuous circle between those two things that breaks down when we go to our phone the moment we get bored in a bedroom or on the couch or with a loved one, right? You're robbing yourself of opportunities to be with others. You're robbing yourself of opportunities to be with yourself. And developing a relationship with yourself is going to be one of the themes of the, because writing is a very important part of thinking. Writing is a very important part of knowing oneself. It's a very important part of living the examined life. And writing should not always be done for Facebook walls and Twitter feeds. And writing should not always be done with others in mind. It shouldn't always be done to please a teacher. And some people might have had a really good relationship to writing at one point in their lives, and they've kind of lost it. That's also one of the things to think about. Not trying to reclaim all at once, like, oh, now I'm going to get a typewriter and go up into a cabin and I'm going to write books now. No, but like, you don't have to do everything from your phone. You can take a notepad out on a walk. And if there's some thoughts that won't go away, then you just write them down and then you keep walking and see what comes of it, right? So that was the 10-minute rule and the idea of taking a notepad on a walk are the two main things that I wanted to leave people with before we turn to the part about how to sign up and the logistics, when the course is going to be happening and all of that kind of stuff. But is there any kind of like things that you're still thinking about, Anne, that you would want to tie in before we switch gears?
Yeah, I think just one thing that I wanted to touch on as to, why is this course pressing to us? Because we kind of talked about, well, why we care about it, how our lives have been affected, but why do it right now? And I think you can talk about maybe why you feel that it fits into the first year of Theory Underground courses and why you think it is a base. But for me, not only do I think it's also important to kind of have this basis in the like Theory Underground network and community, especially when David's developing basically a new social media network that is kind of utilizing the gamification. So you can kind of touch on that.
Oh, hold on one second. Hold
Yeah.
on. I'm sorry. You see this as one of the most, and then you cut out. Let's just hold
Oh,
on
okay.
hold on for 1 second though. We're gonna I let's bookmark that and let the internet do its thing. It's dipping for a second. I think we're good now.
Okay, cool. I was just saying that I see this as kind of one of the most pressing issues of our time, especially I muted myself there, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence, with the rise in remote work, with this, VR is becoming more of a thing. Like we just met a friend of some of our friends who live in Finland, and we were all eating dinner, and this guy was telling us about how his younger brother is now obsessed with like spending his time like in the VR world. Like it's finally here. You can go hang out with friends in the VR world. You can go on battles. You can do all sorts of things. Anything that you can imagine, it's happening in the VR world. And
Anything.
that is like the scary. I think that is the most terrifying, scariest thing, that people are not having face-to-face conversations, that we can now just literally sit in our rooms and waste away, and our eyes get all burnt out from the blue light. I mean, even just seeing families out at dinner and the parents are scrolling on their phone and the kids have a YouTube video on, that makes me more sad than anything. So I think we just are kind of getting to this point now where new technologies, and they're really cool, and they obviously can be used for really good reasons. Some people might need them. There's a lot of benefits, but like more and more technologies are being introduced, and you have, older generations who are starting to use these things. You have younger generations like me who've grown up with this stuff all their life, and then you have parents who didn't grow up, who didn't get introduced to this stuff at such a young age, who are now introducing these technologies and screens to kids even younger than I was when I first was like really, we had TV in the house, we had computer games, but now, with iPads. I nannied for a 6-year-old a few summers ago, and he had unrestricted access to a Nintendo Switch and could watch whatever YouTube videos he wanted. And he was watching some things, and I'm like, oh, why are you watching this? Like that. So now we're going to, in 10 to 20 years, we're going to see the effects of what happens when we introduce even younger kids between the ages of 3 and 7 to these technologies and unlimited access to the attention economy and what that does to their brains and their learning and their relationships. So I just see it as like not only a really pressing issue because, yeah, just in a time that we need each other more than ever, we need relationships more than ever. There's so many barriers in our way, and so we really need to like theorize that and hypothesize, or not hypothesize, but we really need to theorize that and think about that and hopefully learn some lessons and kind of figure out how to have better relationships with this so that we can in turn have better relationships with each other and our community. But something else I think to think about that I just wanted to mention that, because I talked about this with you, Dave, a few days ago, but when we are going to talk about books like Influence and kind of talking about the influence of advertising, especially, I think we have to think about the ways in which technology is like creating for ourselves, but I think we have to think about like climate change and the state of our planet. And something that I recently saw was that there's the best relationships that we can for the longest amount of time that we can in this weird, polarized, messed up world. Like we have each other, as cliche as it sounds, like we have each other, we need each other. We got to figure that out. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the advertising and propaganda side of things is actually one that we haven't touched on, but it will be the focus of one of the months will be a focus on that. We will be talking about the various ways that advertising has developed over the last 50 to 70 years. We'll be talking about Edward Bernays. We'll also be talking about propaganda. We'll be talking about Chomsky. But we'll be beyond that, talking about the ways that, what started with Bernays or Chomsky has developed into modern big data farming and algorithmic desire-centered modes of advertising and propaganda, and how propaganda moved from a mainstream general consensus, there's a status quo and you can be against the status quo and that's the general left position, to actually both now the status quo maintains itself through a duopoly, right? And that duopoly maintains itself through scapegoating the other and through fostering an image of the other that gets scapegoated. And so that's where you develop like the understanding of the modern propaganda model not being one of like this general status quo, but instead of being a duopoly, right? It's no longer the monopoly model, it's the duopoly model. And we'll be using Baudrillard for that, but we'll also be reading Hate Inc. for that. So we've just got a lot of fantastic sources that we'll be getting into. Yeah, there are some.
Good, folks. It's gonna be good.
There are some comments that I want to address in chat before we close out. But really quick, I just want to say in response to the other thing that you'd asked me to touch on, though, because Theory Underground is a course-gated social media site, which means that there are going to be tiers of involvement that are unlocked by people who basically achieved or initiated into various discourses, right? This is definitely something that we want to talk about. Yes, gamification is killing us, but it's also the reason that I stay on my Spanish learning with Duolingo, right? gamification can be good. And figuring out, at least for people like me, and that's the thing, is like, at the end of the day, Theory Underground needs to serve people like me. And what I mean by that is, like, if I'm not learning, and if it's not able to keep me coming back, and it doesn't keep me fresh in the various fields that I want to be thinking in and teaching and learning and writing about and exploring for the rest of my life, or at least the next 5 years, then that it's not going to work, because it has to work for me first, right? But I also want it to work for the people that I consider fellow travelers. And for the people that we've been so far, I think some people are getting a lot out of it. Some people are very new to all of this, right? This is the first experiment of mine that they are involved with, and some people like it. Not everything that we do will always be your cup of tea, but it is all a part of a much bigger puzzle that I've been trying through various ways to experiment with over the last 10 years. And this whole conversation about critical media theory comes out of like talks that I was giving at Duquesne University or University of Hawaii, or I also gave a talk on this topic in Argentina, right? Like 7 years ago, right? I was talking about these things at conferences, and back then there was a lot more denial still, a lot less acknowledgement of its addictive nature or of how it might be impacting relationships. I would give a talk in front of 30 to 50 academics, depending on the venue. And a lot of these academics are boomers. They would raise their hands and say defensive things that I had already preempted. Like, well, just because it can be this way doesn't mean it's bad. I literally led off the talk by saying, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying the only bad thing is to not think about what are the tendencies and dynamics in play here. It's only bad if we're ignorant, right? The goal is, as Heidegger says in the question concerning technology, to come into a freer relation with technology. And Andrew McLuhan just put out an article. Andrew McLuhan is the grandson of Marshall McLuhan. He just put out an article on the McLuhan Institute Substack a couple weeks ago about how McLuhan was optimistic. He has his various kind of pessimistic moments, but he was overall optimistic because he does believe in the power of education and of people to be able to kind of to be able to come into this freer relationship. So McLuhan was also keen on that. Now, you don't have to be optimistic and you don't have to be a part of the recovery group. If you just want to do the pure theory and you aren't really convinced in a lot of the more self-help related kinds of things, cool. I hope you keep an open mind. I do think that it's inherently worthwhile. But for me, and what works for me, and why I need this going in here with the first year of Theory Underground, is because, look, I'm teaching a course on being in time. That is going to demand so much. I'm building a website and an app at the same time. That requires so much. I'm still in this For They Know Not What They Do course. The What is Sex course with Alenka Zupancic, she is technically going to make an appearance in the course, and that's new news, by the way, but no, it's not with her in the sense, it's her book. It's with Cadell Last. I'm doing all of these things while also working on Underground Theory Volume 1 and these marathon streams and a countrywide tour. And, I'm 35 years old now. This is the first year of operations for my newest experiment, Theory Underground. It's a very big year. It's so much going on and it requires so much effort, and I love it and it makes me feel alive. And it's a genuine challenge that I'm seeing, new challenges every day. But I also need to force myself to be reminded to think about the virtuous circle between solitude and solicitude. I need to be reminded to go touch grass, to go swimming, to go working out. We know what we need to do, but we also need reminders, and we need accountability and assessment structures. And because currently we're living outside of any of these like normal. We're not in an institutional environment. We're not in a university. We're not in a the gamification and kind of building our own structure. The goal is not to replace so much for building your own structure, right? I have no pretenses that this is going to replace anything. But the point is to mitigate the effects and tendencies of the attention economy and of all of these other forms of media, and to come into a freer relation with them, hopefully by using the tools that are at our disposal that humans are still experimenting with. And it'll never be perfect, but we'll have an ongoing conversation about it. And the people who take this course are going to have a basis in the texts, in the concepts, in the various practices that they can experiment with, and that means that they will be initiated into the forum that is dedicated to this stuff. And that means that future courses that might bring in future cohorts about this stuff will all be bringing people into the same area. And so it'll be like people get initiated into an ongoing conversation, an ongoing experiment. And I just think that that's really exciting. And it's one of the parts that I look forward to the most, because when we do this tour across the United States this fall, we're going to meet a lot of people, and we're going to be giving lectures in various cities across the states talking about stuff like this. And there people will be attracted to this who aren't even into normal theory. They're going to come in because they're lonely and they're thinking about their smartphone, and then they're going to find out about the theory side of things. And some people who need something new to challenge them are going to get hooked on theory. And so we're really excited about all the possibilities there. So I think that basically sums up the why, or the how, the why this has to be this year, and how this stuff applies to Theory Underground as its own sort of gamified social media site. But let's pull up on the screen here the site really quick. We'll talk about let's see if I can actually get it up on the screen. Here, I'm gonna switch it over so that we're gonna go. I'll show everybody how to do it. Okay. I'm using a different browser than I normally use. And you'll be able to see it now. I'm going to see the what it looks like when you're not logged in, right? So if you just go to theory-underground.com, and then you go to courses, click on courses right there, you can see all of these courses. Now, one of the problems with putting price tags on things is that some people will automatically feel like it has excluded them on the basis of class, which is something that I am highly sensitive to. I'm not sensitive to concern trolls who talk about such things, but I am sensitive to the reality of the situation as a person who has been excluded from courses in the past. I take that very seriously. First of all, I do believe that if you pay for something, then you care about it more. I think that there is something there that is real, but also we have to find a way to make this a financially feasible operation. And until we get somebody who's going to start giving me like $50,000 every couple of months, this is basically going to be the way that we move forward. But we've added tiers of involvement so that there's always like the lowest tier, which gives you basic access to the course, to the recordings, to the forum, etc. It doesn't give you lifetime access to the forum, but it does give you access throughout the course. And then always tier 2 with all of these gives you everything from tier 1, but it's a way of saying that you are doing longer term buy-in, that you're trying to support the overall project a lot more. And then all the tiers from there up have to do with our time and our energy. So it's going to cost a lot more to have one-on-one time with me. If I was being paid a salary by an academic institution so that I could have office hours every Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you could just drop by my office hours, well, then that would kind of take care of that. But because, you know, that gets taken for granted as well, right? People, they take it for granted. But when you actually set up to say, no, I really want your critical feedback, Dave, and you're going to pay for that higher tier because you want that critical feedback, well, then I'm going to take it seriously. When I was teaching at the university, something that I found profoundly irritating was putting a lot of work into grading people's papers and then knowing that most of those papers were not even going to be, like, they weren't going to look at my notes, right? But some students really do want a very thorough reflection or critical, they want thorough critical feedback on whatever it is that you think of their work, because they're trying to get better. And I want to respect that. I want to make that available. And so the money thing, though it's not perfect, it's not a perfect way of, nothing's perfect, but it definitely can help us figure out, I'm sorry, I'm like trying to fix this window, but it like does this thing where it like pops up. Every time I put my mouse towards the top, it glitches out and then I can't grab it. Okay. I guess I can grab it there. Sorry, that distracted. But yeah, I want to make it so that people are able to do that. So yeah, as you can see, we've got a bunch of courses here. Some are ongoing, some are past. You can still take the past courses. They're still available. And the upcoming courses are What is Sex? Being in Time Division 1 and Digital Literacy and Critical. Click on it. Because this is underground shit and not Amazon, it will take a little while to load. Be proud that you're doing something.
$100 million.
I just lost I just lost all. We're going to have to actually raise the price of this course by $100 million to recoup what we just lost. Yeah. And actually, the main question that is not answered on the front page here or on the thumbnail itself that needs to be addressed is when we're meeting, which will basically be the middle Sunday of every month for 6 months, starting in May. And by middle Sunday, there's really never a perfect middle Sunday. What we mean is May 14th, June 11th, July 9th, August 13th, September 10th, and October 15th. Okay? And the time will be 9 a.m. What's that?
Is that just the second Sunday of every month?
Is that always the second?
Is it?
It
Maybe.
Probably is. It probably is the second.
Cool.
Maybe that would make it really easy if it's always the second, but I don't. No, wait.
No.
Wait. I think so. Good catch. Okay. Thank God. Okay, Anne, you're amazing. Yeah. No, it's just the second Sunday of every month, and it's at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. or 12 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central European time. So this will be probably one of the only courses at Theory Underground this year that is pretty conveniently available for people in Europe to join. Okay, so if you click the Take This Course button, it'll take another 1,000 years to load. Oh my God, it says it looks like you got lost. What? Oh. And how about you talk about things for a second while I fix that?
Sure. Sorry, there's like a loud train. What do you want me to talk about?
How about you talk about chat? There's definitely some stuff
Sure.
we want to touch on from chat.
Good idea. Looks like Dave just needs some basic digital literacy over here, like the boomer definition. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let me pull up the chat. What do we got here? From the beginning. Nice setting sun background. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Good job.
Oh my God, we don't have to be comprehensive.
Dave Dave representing for us millennials. LOL, I remember the Razor. Remember having to pay per text like 10 cents each from DEFCON. Wow, can't relate. No,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
just crazy to see like how it's all progressed and like the generational differences that we're seeing and that we're going to see. Adam says, I never thought about the fact that I went through puberty on social media, AOL. Yeah, for real. Like we all have this experience of like growing up with a certain technology, going through puberty on a certain technology. And so it'll be interesting to compare boomers versus millennials versus Gen Z versus like the kids who, I don't know, are they Gen Z? The kids who are like 4 years old who have tablets right now? I don't know.
They've put them in a new category, but these categories
Are
are
they a
made
new
up.
category now?
Yeah. Uh, really, we can only talk about people who experience certain mediums over a period of time. You know what I mean? Like you can't
Mm,
draw it. You can't just draw it on it. But yeah, exactly. I don't think people under the age of 4 right now get counted.
yeah. Let's see. We got Adam. Oh, where did it go? Who said, imagine how fucked we'd have been had they managed to algorithmically curate our phone calls. Whew, that would not be good. Defcon said, burnout culture. Yep. Salamoon de Costa. Hey, ho, hello. Hi. Hello. Media literacy does not mean can you read or do you know publisher has interest. Yeah, exactly. It's like really understanding the media or the technology or whatever it is. And that's what we care about here at Theory Underground. Doing underground theory requires functional literacy and functional digital literacy, not just
Oh, you've
what?
oh, you cut out for a second.
Oh,
I will
secret
actually.
Asian Dan. I was trying to read that as one word.
Oh yeah,
I
secret
was like,
Asian Dan.
Secretasian Dan. Secret Asian Dan, hello. Says, the more I think about it, media literacy may be underdeveloped, but the ultimate cause is lack of ideological self-awareness. For sure. That's what we're hoping to do here. Some self-awareness, some cultural awareness, develop the media literacy. It'll be good. Ideological self-awareness is a precondition for media literacy. How can you have critical view of media and its presuppositions if you're not aware of your own presuppositions? Exactly. Am I getting to the bottom of the chat here? Yeah. VR world, the blow-up doll expanded into an apparent reality. Yep.
Oh my god,
Exactly.
for real.
Terry Gilliam finale for his dystopian trilogy, Brazil, 12 Monkeys, Zero Theorem, has a scene where there's a party where everyone is glued to their very large display personal devices, really iPads. Yeah, I think like we're also seeing a lot more media, it's like TV shows, movies exploring this technology and the ways that it can be used that are really scary. Like, I don't know if anyone saw the movie Don't Worry, Darling that came out in the last year with Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, directed by Olivia Wilde. The movie itself was like weird and confusing at times, but oh, can I spoil it? I'm gonna spoil this movie, y'all. So if you haven't seen it, this is your warning. But you find out at the end because basically the concept of this movie is that everyone's living in like this perfect like 50 styles world where all the women are housewives and all of the men work for this company and everyone's very happy, but then things kind of start to glitch out and one woman like goes crazy and is like, we're not supposed to be here. And so then it's like Florence Pugh having all these weird experiences and figuring out what's going on. Well, you find out that actually these people are living in just like a city in the modern era, and the Harry Styles character is actually like some like internet incel type of guy who's it kind of his relationship with his partner is estranged, and so he finds this new technology, and he where he basically capture like so all these men are capture like take their wives as hostages and put them into this VR world, and they're just like prisoners and slaves, like lying on their bed, and their eyes are being like scanned into this VR world, this digital world. And that again, that was like the scariest part of the whole movie for me was, oh my gosh, they're using technology in this way. Like I also just read a book about kind of VR technology that kind of almost out of our bodies and into new experiences. So we're seeing the all of this new technology being explored in fiction, and I think that can also be a really powerful way to raise some like I don't want to necessarily call it critical media theory or digital literacy, but like raising some sort of consciousness and some sort of awareness of by really exaggerating the alienating effects of this technology or showing like the extreme example of something that doesn't exist quite yet but very well could, and how what that does to relationships and ourselves. So I think there's definitely a place in this conversation for like stories. I think many of the books that I have kind of been going through to prepare for this class mention Orwell, 1984, mention Huxley, and what's the book?
Amusing ourselves to
Like
death.
no, it's
Oh,
it's like
Brave
a
New World.
very important book that I should have read in high school that I didn't. Brave New World.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. So like there's a lot of fiction too from the past and nowadays that are kind of exploring these concepts, and maybe we'll bring those up within our courses just as examples, but that's something good too. And I think reading novels, Dave and I were just talking about this, like reading a book, I think it's just for like pleasure. It's such a good way to resist the attention economy rather than, oh, I've just had a really long day at work, oh, I just need to scroll and do something else. It's like read a book, like any book. It can just be a classic, because reading a hard theory, reading something like Being in Time is kind of a different purpose than just read a novel or go on a walk, doing something to resist the attention economy that's saying, oh, you're feeling tired, come to me, I'll help you, I'll make you feel connected and give you insights into the world. It's like, no, novels and books can also give you that insight. So not a part of our class right now, but important nonetheless, I would argue. Cool, you got it worked out?
I got it fixed.
Cool.
So now and by the way, that's one of the nice things is like if if I had if this was like an institution and there was like a whole hierarchy of people working to keep this thing going and it wasn't a one person show, then I would have had to submit a ticket to get that fixed. And that could have been anywhere between like a few hours and a couple of days turnaround. And if it was something that involved multiple people, then it could have been a few days. So, every time that there's problems with this website, like when there was a mistake in the syllabus, and some of you pointed that out recently for a different course, yes, that there are problems that come with me doing everything, but there's also awesome things that come from it. Like, all right, it's already solved. So, if we click the button, take this course, it should now work. No! Did it work? What the hell? Oh, I get it. I see why. Watch. I'll have it fixed in no time. Damn it. Okay, now it should.
Gosh. Dang it.
No, I know what it was though, but let's see. Let's try now. Click take this course. What is going on? Really?
Here, I'm testing it from my end too.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta plug this thing in.
Because it looks like it's working. Let me click update on this. Others, I gotta go. There's two areas of the back end of WordPress where I had to change the URL because they were not in agreement. And I thought I clicked update in both of those places, but I might have not clicked update in both of those places. So I hope that that's all that the problem is. Okay, let's try one more time. Elevator music. There we go. It worked.
Nice.
All right, we're back in business, everybody. All right. So from here, it automatically will show you tier 2. And you can click this tier thing and you can go to tier 1. You can go to tier 3. Each one has its own dedicated image. How cool is that? Tier 4 is the one that it would involve like one-on-one Zoom calls with me, going over your reflections and your final project. Tier 3 is the one for the discussion group. For like this is going to be a bit more like a recovery group experience, and that will be facilitated by Anne. Tier 5, if you are a patron to this course, or to Theory Underground, if you're a $50 patron to Theory Underground, then you can access tier 5 for $50, which gives you the benefits of tier 1 for basically $50. Okay, because you have a special coupon that would give you that discount or if you aren't a $50 subscriber and you want the $50 benefits, but you want to just pay all at once and get some extra benefits, then you can just pay $600 for this course, and then you get a bunch of other stuff unlocked with that as well. You can just read the fine
print.
So
then basically, for 1 year from the date that you purchased it, every time you want to sign up, and for the patron benefit, it basically gives you all the patron benefits without having to do like the monthly payment. You just pay in advance, and then you get the $50 access to tier 1 for every course. And then do you also get the patron code for discount? Yeah, then you get the patron discount for the other tiers.
Right. The patron discount for tiers, the patron discount for tiers 2 through 3 or tier 2 through 4 it's always 35% off for tiers 2 through 4. So 2, 3, and 4. So that's because people who are going to pay $50 a month, like loyal, like patrons, like, my God, you make such a big difference, and we want to do everything we can to else. Someone said this to me very recently. That's why it's so oddly specific. They were actually canceling with ContraPoints, and was like, I would love to put that towards you, but you only have a $50 tier, and it's like, yeah, that's because I in the very first few months of Theory Underground, I just really wanted to make it clear that small donations will not be enough to make this operation happen, because this isn't just a single individual doing video essays or some streams online. It's not gonna be enough to do small donations, because I'm not trying to reach 100,000 people. It is a smaller thing for the first few years. People are like, what about the working class? What about me? What about you? What about workers who learn how to articulate things on their own? People always want to jump from 0 to 80 in like such a short period of time. And it's like, for me, it's like, no, we got to give ourselves time to get our footing. And if you're trying to think about reaching masses, it's like, look, this is philosophy and theory. Most people don't care about philosophy and theory. And the people who do just want to post memes about it or watch videos online. How many people are actually taking the call to like read stuff that's difficult? At this point, it's not as many as it will be. And so I really wanted to push the idea that the most helpful thing is going to take a lot more buy-in, because we actually need $50 subscribers. Okay. If Bert, who's on, I also understand why people aren't doing that. I understand why you wouldn't do that. And I do want to make it so that there are other ways to participate, because back in the day when I was doing stuff, people would buy me coffee or pizza or help me out with one of my specific bills or whatever through Patreon or Venmo or whatever. And that's helpful, and it makes a really big difference. And especially right now when this is the only way that we're doing anything. But I really wanted people to realize that more than your patronage, I want you to take courses. And if you only take one course in a year instead of all of the courses, but you really take it seriously, then that's going to matter more than anything else. So with all that said, though, if you've followed to this point in the stream, if you are still with us now, then there is this new thing called a coupon code. It's not new. It's very common on the internet, obviously, but now this website has that feature. If you click add to cart for, say, tier 1 here, it's $100. You go to there's a coupon code now that you can use until Wednesday of next week. The coupon code is Early Bird CMT. CMT is for critical media theory. Early Bird CMT until April 12th. That's the coupon code. I'm going to share it in the chat, and it is our gift to you all for being here as long as you have been. So thank you. Dan says, I like how the 404 has party confetti. Yeah, for real. It's pretty cute, isn't it?
It'd have like sad faces, tears, lightning bolts, rain clouds.
Yeah, I had the whole thing.
Kidding.
Yeah, so anyway, use that coupon code for, I think it's 25% off, and you should be good to go. All right, we're about to close out the stream. I want to give everybody an opportunity to say their goodbyes, ask any final questions for clarification on anything. And Anne, do you have any closing thoughts?
I guess my closing thoughts would just be this course, I think, is going to be different than some of the other courses on Theory Underground, as we kind of touched on. But I think it's going to be a really cool experiment and experience, because I think it's going to give us a chance to really connect some of this stuff to our own life and what we're seeing in our society and culture, as well as theorizing and talking about some of the theory that gets left out of the conversation and the sphere of technology, social media, advertising, propaganda, all of that good stuff. And so I just really hope that you sign up for the course at whatever tier works for you. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge. The experiments are going to be something that you're not normally offered in, a normal university course or even in a Theory Underground course. The assignments are write a reflection, do a final project. You're going to be getting to actually implement stuff into your life, everyday life, for weeks at a time, really reflect, and hopefully we'll just build a nice little community of people who care about the good life, who care about technology, who care about each other and relationships. And I'm looking forward to it. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for giving us your time, giving us your time. Thank you for giving me your time, and have a great night. Yeah, or day. I don't know what time it is for people.
Wherever you are in the world, whether you're watching this right now or finishing it because you were just speeding up through the live stream, or you're watching it in the near future or 5 or 10 years from now, say hello in the comments. Let us know that you watched it. We always wonder how many of those views are real, but if 5 people watch it all the way through and it does something for them, then that matters more than anything else, So just let us know, and we hope to see some of you in the course. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. I'll roll the US tour ad because it is coming. We will be coming to a city near you. And if your city is not on the tour, I haven't added some of the new places like Pittsburgh and Chicago yet. But if your city's not on this tour, then it could be. It could be. All it takes is somebody who's got a library card at a town or city and wants us to come and says, hey, look, I don't know how much of an audience there is for what you're doing, but I can at least give you a venue. Because we're not paying for random we're broke. We're doing this underground style. If you've got a garage that's set up like a social space, like we got a friend who hosts like a film club movie night once a month in his garage. If you've got a space that you can host an event in, then reach out to us. It's quite possible that we will add your town or city as a stop along the way, so that we can do something, because we're not interested in meeting everybody in the world. We're interested in meeting people who are already watching this stuff, who are already in some way a fellow traveler of Theory Underground, who are looking to take it to another level. And you might be surprised and actually meet some people in your local area. So, all right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Peace out.
In an attempt to bring in new people to the world of philosophy and theory while building on relationships already established, we are doing a countrywide tour of the United States this fall.
What's up, guys? It's Ann and Dave.
Are we coming to a city or town near you? Do you think there is a venue or audience in your local region that would be interested in a lecture or facilitated discussion about existentialism, critiques of therapism, PMC ideology, self-help, introduction to philosophy, or the time-energy critique of any of those things? This speaking and discussion facilitation tour will include the Pacific Northwest in mid-August, the Kansas City, Missouri area late August or early September, Philadelphia at the beginning of October, and really we're going to be all over the area there, hopefully, so get in contact with us if you think that we should come visit your state. Phoenix, Arizona, mid-October, and SoCal, especially San Diego, late October. I say especially San Diego because we already have our guide for the San Diego region. What's the difference between a host, a guide, and a volunteer, you ask? Well, thanks for asking, actually. The volunteer role is for people who want to put up posters or in other ways promote the events that will be occurring in their town or city, whereas the host might have a guest bedroom, guest house, or a place that we can park our van so that we can sleep in our van. We need to know if you would have like bathroom facilities or anything like that, and so the form on the website is where you can tell us what you have to offer. Guiding, on the other hand, though, people who love to guide take a lot of pride in their local knowledge. A good example of that would be Michael Downs when I visited him in Raytown, Missouri, and he took me into Kansas City and we had barbecue, and he took me to the mall and to all these other landmark places from his life growing up there. But a more recent example would be my friend Michael in Poland, who took us around Katowice, Poland, and basically gives a historical and sociological analysis of everything, and it was amazing. It was one of the coolest things we've ever experienced, and it made us realize some people just want to provide the space and privacy, whereas other people want to take you out and show you around. And so if you're interested in being a volunteer, host, or guide, we have a special form for that. So please fill out your information and get in contact with us as soon as possible so we can fit you into the schedule, because we'll love to meet you, touch base with the local community. And if you don't think anyone else in your area is interested in the things that you're interested in, if you don't think anyone else is into this stuff, well, we might be able to surprise you.
When I saw that poster, Boulder Art in Boise, fucking Idaho, are you kidding me? It was virtually an answer to an unspoken prayer, It really was. And I just couldn't believe that somebody was interested in the things that I was interested in, that I had been interested in for years and had kind of given up on in futility. I'd labored in solitude for so long I had no one to talk to about it, no one to bounce ideas off.
This tour is going to bring together a lot of people who want to be based in text with the people they're in conversation with. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fantastic year. The only other thing that I want to say is that Michael Downs' first book is going to be published by Theory Underground really soon here. I've got another book coming out really soon here. These books will be spread throughout the United States on this tour. So I'm hoping to be able to do some actual book launch events at various bookstores. Outside of that, I guess the last thing that I would say is that Michael Downs is gearing up to teach For They Know Not What They Do by Slavoj Žižek. We're putting out all these introduction videos and other interviews related to the topic of Hegel, Lacan, Žižek, because we want to give people an accessible and sturdy basis in the discourse. The problem is that Michael Downs is very busy having to work at a wage slave job. And so if you want to help in freeing Mikey, make sure to go to his Patreon at patreon.com/thedangerousbaby and make a donation. Thank you. I would be remiss to close this out without a quick shout out to our patrons and our anonymous donors. Thank you so much for the donations already. We've only been around for a month. We already got over $3,000 in donations, and so thank you. And stay tuned for the app, which is on its way. There will be a Theory Underground app. So the current setup is that it is a social media site built around courses, where you can suppose that people who are involved in the discussions have a shared interest in the same or similar texts, and where you can assume in a lot of the discussions that, yeah, people have read the stuff that you're reading, that you're bringing into dialogue. And so, for instance, The Idea of the University by Carl Jaspers, dedicated for him. Slavoj Žižek's For They Know Not What They Do, dedicated for him. And then as people take the course over the years, new people will be coming into that forum. And so if you get in there early, you'll be able to see how the conversation evolves. And as new people add into the conversation, it'll bring back memories and like things that you want to work through, questions that you had with the first time that you read the text. And so I'm really excited for this. The reason I've built this website is because I think that this is what's lacking in so many other spaces, is that ability to return, to be able to communicate after the fact and in a sustained way on a platform that's not attention grabby and annoying like Discord. And so stay tuned, because there is an app on the way. Thank you to our donors. If you want to donate, go to theory-underground.com/support. Thank you.